What's going on, everyone? This is Blake, and in this video I'm going to be breaking down and talking about 3 key principles that I see that are the most important principles to embody in order for you to be able to take your side hustle and turn it into a full-time business. So as we dive into this video today, I know many of you watching this right now, subscribe to the channel, following along with me, are likely in a 9-to-5 job right now, working to create that freedom for yourself, create that independence, and grow your online business. And I know that at times it can feel like a lot because you're managing your 9-to-5 job. You're working to show up there for 40 hours a week, 40 plus hours a week, on top of you trying to manage what you're doing day to day in your online business and actually get that moving. And between those 2 things alone, plus taking into the effect of developing skills and marketing, sales, and all of that good stuff, it can feel like a lot sometimes. So I wanted to make this video to help those people out because it really was not long ago that myself was in the same shoes as you were. I was in a 9-to-5 job. I was working 60 hours a week while managing a side hustle, and ultimately I was working to grow that side hustle into a 6-figure business, which I was able to achieve. So looking back on my journey, I want to shed some light on this topic to help you guys that are in this situation right now, working to go full-time with your online business, actually make that happen. So with that said, we're going to dive into the 3 most important principles that you can develop and embody in order to easily make that transition, to make more progress, to build more momentum, and ultimately to grow your own online business, to create that independence for yourself. So point number 1, which I have illustrated here, I spent some time mapping these out before. And to be honest, before I even get into point number 1, I want to start with one foundational thing that could easily be 1 point alone, but to me, it doesn't even need to go into these 3 points because it's a non-negotiable, and that is belief in yourself. Knowing that at the end of the day that you will accomplish what you want to accomplish if you apply yourself. And when we get to point number 2 in today's video, it's going to tie really well into this, but I want it to be known above anything else, if you don't have belief in what you're pursuing right now and the fact that you'll actually get to where you want to go, you need to step back and work to realign that above anything else, because that is the number 1 thing that you need to have going into any investment that you make, going into any business that you pursue, and going into anything that you're looking to conquer and ultimately grow with them. It all starts with belief. Aside from belief, point number 1 that I want to bring up is your job is a resource. And what I mean by your job as a resource is when you're working in a 9-to-5 job and you have a side hustle on the side, you're likely maintaining that 9-to-5 job because you need money coming in. You have to pay the phone bills, you have to pay rent, you have to pay your mortgage payment, you have to pay bills that are non-negotiables that need to be taken care of so you don't go into debt or you don't get those payments paid off itself. So while keeping that 9-to-5 job to pay those bills, more than likely, many of you have some excess money on top of that you're either putting into savings or putting somewhere else, spending it on something else, that you could shift that approach and use that money in a different way. And I always looked at that extra money that I made from my job after paying off all the bills I had to pay, after paying off student loans. I looked at that extra money I had and I said, realistically, what percentage of this can I take and use it as a resource towards what I'm pursuing right now? So how can I take this extra funds and put this into a pool to build up to make that next investment in my business? Within last year, I invested over $40,000 into myself because I knew that the more investments I could make in myself and actually go all in with those investments, the more speed I would create for myself. So if you don't want speed, if you're in no rush to get to where you want to go and you want to just figure things out on your own, by all means, don't invest. But be careful, because when you don't do that, sometimes you can get down a path where you lose belief, you start to doubt, and you end up falling back and going back to what you knew before, which is that 9-to-5 job. Investing in yourself gives you that clear path from someone that's been there and done that. And by using your resources wisely from that job that you're still maintaining, it's putting your business in a position to excel much, much faster. So point number 1 is use your resources wisely and apply those towards your business to ultimately amplify your results. Point number 2 is discipline and consistency is the key. Just like I mentioned in point number 1, all about that belief and having that belief in yourself. When you're able to believe in yourself and show up with discipline and consistency every single day, you're giving yourself truly a foolproof plan to success. Like I said earlier, if you don't want to invest in yourself and you're not in any rush, as long as you are disciplined and consistent, you will get to where you want to go, especially if you have that belief within yourself. So when you pair belief with discipline and consistency, you're giving yourself a foolproof plan for success. You will eventually get to where you want to go if you show up every single day with the right focus. And I think a lot of people overlook the whole discipline and consistency side of things. And to be honest, if I look back on my journey, this was probably the biggest thing that led to the biggest shift in my results. Outside of investing in myself and getting that clear plan going forward, without actually showing up with discipline and consistency, I would have never have gotten to where I wanted to go. And when you're in a 9-to-5 job, that can be tough because you come home from work and you're tired. And if you wake up earlier before your job, a couple hours earlier to get those extra hours in, it can be frustrating. It can be annoying. And I get it. It's not easy, especially when you're working to develop all these different skills in your online business, manage a life outside of that, and still keep food on the table and bring money in. But at the end of the day, without actually showing up consistently and without actually having discipline to do that, you'll never get to where you want to go. You'll never ever build a successful online business. And I owe a lot of credit to this book right here for instilling that discipline and consistency within me. This is just one book that's had a massive impact on this particular trait itself within me. But if you haven't read The Compound Effect yet, I highly, highly recommend that you check it out. I'll link it in the description below for those that want to check it out. But this is probably the number one book that's had the biggest impact on me early on. I read this book probably almost every year. I read it years and years ago. And since that moment that I read it, it really instilled in me and gave me perspective on what it means to be disciplined and consistent and what it means to focus on becoming 1% better every single day. Because when you can shift that lens, you stop being in a rush. You start realizing that what you're doing and the way that you're showing up daily, even if it's small progression, you're moving in the right direction. And that alone builds momentum and it allows you to propel to the next level. Discipline and consistency are beyond super, super key. They're one of the most important things needed in order to make this happen. And it takes a lot of effort to develop it. But I promise you, if you take some time to read that book, to work on instilling these habits within yourself, and really shift the focus to being disciplined and consistent, it's going to make the world of a difference. And if you're still not seeing those results and you feel like you're being consistent, then you may need to raise your standards in order to be more consistent and show up in a more powerful way. So by raising your standards, what I'm meaning is making commitments to yourself to follow through. If you're falling short on content right now, raise your standards and tell yourself, you know what, I am not allowing myself to not put out 25 pieces of new content this month. I am making this commitment to myself. I'm raising my standards towards content to show up with discipline and to show up consistently in my business, because I know that if I do that, I will achieve a lot of breakthroughs through it. I'll build momentum, and ultimately I will make progression towards my goal of creating that independence and building my online business. So that is point number 2, which is discipline and consistency. So as we get into the final point that I want to make on this video, this is a really, really important one that a lot of times I want to talk a little bit deeper on this because I see areas that allow this to not actually be possible. And point number 3 is simplify and take action. So what I mean by simplify and take action is stripping away all the other variables. Narrowing your focus to the things that are going to make the biggest difference for you right now. And you'd be surprised that at the beginning stage, I promise you, what will make the biggest difference for you is narrowing your focus. It feels like if you do more in more ways that you'll achieve more results and grow faster. But from firsthand experience and someone that's been there, done that, and tried that, I can promise you right now that it's only going to slow your progression. Now, this is an interesting topic because I see so many people talk about simplify, get a daily action plan, follow that daily action plan every single day. And that's all good and fine, but I think a lot of people look at that daily action plan and start to become complacent with it. They start to just show up and go through the motions with those activities itself. And they don't really show up in a way that they need to show up in order to make it happen. And even through that daily action plan, along with getting complacent and just doing some basic things to make them feel like they accomplished something, when they do need to go and do something that's actually outside of their comfort zone, maybe putting out their first piece of content, going live for the first time, testing some new offer, a new form of content, they go and they start to work towards that and they allow fear to creep in. So I want to illustrate an example of how this can happen and what can go on in your mind to make this happen. So let's say you are writing your first post, or maybe it's even your 10th post, and you're feeling uncomfortable because it's a new form of post and a new expression of yourself that you've never shared before. So you write that post out, you type it, you look back at it, and you start to think, how will people respond when they read this? And then something pops in your head that says people are going to judge you. People are going to think less of you if you share this. And then you start to delete parts of that post. And then you end up never actually even publishing it because you allowed the fear to creep in and the judgment of others and the thoughts and the opinion of others to determine whether or not you should take this certain action within your business. And usually the biggest driver behind not taking action, people not showing up and doing the things that they know they need to do, is fear. Fear of the opinion of others. Fear of letting down themselves. Fear of not getting the results they want. Fear of rejection. The list goes on. And we allow that fear to cripple our actions and ultimately allow us to have the thoughts and the mindset of somebody else. And we're losing sight of who we really are internally. And this is a big reason why, in my coaching program especially, when I teach my ACC Authentic Attraction Framework, I'm all about authentically showing up in your business, in your content, in your live videos. Because I know that if you can do that, you will attract the people that you want to attract. But the moment that we try to be someone else that we're not, trapped in somebody else's mind, trying to work around and get to some end point because we see somebody else being there, is the moment we start not being ourselves. People can see right through it. You know it, I see it, and it happens every single day. So when you're working to simplify your focus and take action consistently, always remember that you can't allow fear to stop you from doing that. This brings me back to an example of early on in my journey when I was growing my online business and I did my first live video. And when I went to go do that first live video, I was scared. There was fear creeping in. I never liked public speaking before. I never liked making videos before. Here I am making YouTube videos for you right now. But this would never have happened. I would not have this channel right now if I didn't embrace that fear early on. And the point is, when I had that fear, I knew that I could either sit back, allow that fear to control my actions and not do anything. And not show up in a way that I need to show up in my business and allow myself to feel more down on myself and have less belief in myself. Or I could make the choice to tackle that fear head on, because what's the worst that could happen? I would only get to an idea of what that fear felt like, and I would only feel more confident facing it the next time. So what did I do? I started a Facebook group. I started to go live inside of an empty Facebook group 2 times with no audience. Hitting the live button, going live, talking on the video, ending it. And yes, this wasn't the full-on fear that I was running away from, being that nobody was watching me, but it was still me going through the motions of doing something I haven't done before, clicking go live, getting used to that habit, and facing that fear head on. And it allowed me to realize what that fear felt like. And it allowed me to look back and say, you know what, Blake, at the end of the day, this isn't that bad. Like, what are you running from? And then I went and did my first live video in front of a group of people, and that felt completely normal. But a lot of times internally, we make things seem like such a big deal. Like we're going to get so much judgment from others. Like we're not doing the right thing, and people are actually going to care and say, you messed up, or that live was terrible. People don't really care that much. As long as you're imperfectly sharing your story and showing up and taking action, they're going to respect you more than anybody else. And a big thing to remind yourself, especially for those early on that are struggling to take action because of fear, is remember that just like I said early on in this video, I was in the same shoes as you not long ago. And I would not have got to where I am now with a multiple 6-figure business if I hid in the dark, in fear, scared of what others would think of me, worried about the thoughts of others, and hiding behind the image of someone that I'm not, and not taking action. But I chose to look at it differently. I chose to remind myself that everyone starts here, and the only way for me to get past this and get to where I want to go is to show up and do things that I've never done before. And it's going to feel uncomfortable, I know that. But at the end of the day, in order for me to actually create momentum, to actually progress, I have to be willing to step outside my comfort zone, test new things, show up, and most importantly, take action. So that is a wrap in today's video for the 3 things that will allow you to really regain control of your side hustle and turn that into a freedom-producing business for yourself and allow you to step away from a 9-to-5 job and keep a balance to consistently making that progression and ultimately make that happen. I could have gone deeper on this topic, but like always, I want to keep things simple for you guys and look back at my journey and ask myself, okay, what are the 3 biggest things that stand out to me that led to the biggest shifts in my progression early on that I can share with you guys that will help do the same. I promise if you take and one of these things that I said in this video seriously, journal about it, write about it, take some notes on it, and start implementing it right away, it will make a massive difference in your business, and ultimately you will get on a much clearer path going forward within your side hustle, and you'll have a much more clarity within your day-to-day between managing both and juggling a lot. I know it's not easy, but know that there's always an end goal in mind, and that's to escape what you feel is difficult right now. That fear will fade away. The complication of managing all these things eventually will fade away. And soon enough, you'll have clarity, you'll make progression, you'll build momentum, and you will get to where you want to go. But it starts by you deciding to embody these traits, to be willing to invest in yourself and use your resources wisely. To be willing to have discipline and consistently show up even on days that it doesn't feel good, or the days you don't feel like it. And most importantly, to be willing to strip away all the other variables, block out the noise, simplify the process, and show up and take action consistently. If you do that, you're giving yourself a foolproof plan to guarantee success online. So with that said, that's a wrap for this video. Again, if you got value from this video today, be sure to drop a thumbs up below, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Any thoughts, questions you have on what I went over in today's video, or questions you have for me based on my experience of being at scratch not long ago to building a multiple 6-figure business, be sure to drop them in the comments below, and I'll work to get back to each and every one of you and get your replies on that. But again, if you're new to the channel and have not subscribed, be sure to click that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. I'll see you.